What's going on, y'all? Charles here from the Traders Corner. Today we're going to be doing a recap of my trading week from April 13th, April 18th. So let's get into it.
How you feeling?
Bro, it was great.
No,
it was great. It was better than I expected.
excellent. It was very excellent.
So, as I mentioned in the intro, doing a quick recap of the trading week. It's going to be a shorter video just because I only took one trade this week. It's still open. It's looking like it's going to be a break even. Also missed an opportunity because I was asleep. So looking into that and possible ways that I might want to get around that, if there are any ways for me to get around that at all. But other than that, let's get into the recap of the one trade that I took and why I took it. Okay, y'all. So looking at this, chart right here on the USD yen, which is what I took the trade on the recap. So we're going to start on the weekly, as I always do when I do my analysis. It's not that I always trade in line with the weekly, but it's just good for me to understand when I am taking shorter term trades, where am I in terms of the higher time frame? So is there more of a possibility that the higher time frame will override, a shorter term or medium term trade that I'm trying to take? Or on top of that, is there a possibility for me to get in and ride the higher time frame move? So that's kind of why I always start on the weekly. We just get into the recap. Starting on the weekly, you can see this descending pattern right here with 1, 2, and then 1, 2 as well. Looking for it to come to the downside for a possible double bottom or a third touch of this trend line before moving higher. That's definitely a possibility. But obviously, with this being a descending channel, the highest probability is that it breaks out to the upside. But, with looking for this pattern to complete, it would make sense for me, in my criteria, in my plan, for me to take, any selling opportunities to possibly come lower to this double bottom or third touch of this trend line before moving higher, right? So now we're just going to get down to the daily. Nothing really on the daily besides the first time we can see 1, 2, and then it doesn't really make sense here, but as we go down, it'll make more sense, right? And then we see 1, 2, and 1, 2. So we're on the 4-hour now. And then on the 4-hour, it's just an older trend lines I had, important. On the 4-hour, we can see that we moved down, corrected, moved down, corrected, and then moved down. Now we're forming a larger correction. So we could break out and go lower, right? But, it's a double bottom before moving higher because we're in this larger expanding type pattern. We could ultimately push higher to around this area before ultimately moving much lower to the downside, or just move higher and revisit these areas, or ultimately break out. Because again, like I said, the higher time frame momentum is to the upside, but with the way that price is moving right now inside this pattern, and the fact that we only have 2 touches of the descending pattern, that leaves selling opportunities as being good opportunities for me to take as long as they're high quality selling opportunities. So now we're just going to get down to the 60. So now on the 60, this is where it really, it comes in that this is one of those very much borderline trades for me, in that it definitely fit my plan. It fit a bunch of criteria that I needed. It's, and even criteria that I've used to make my strategy more strict in recent weeks, because I felt like I was kind of chasing opportunities in certain areas. So it definitely met those criteria as well. But this is kind of like the lowest criteria I have, right? Because 1, the descending channel on the weekly is to the upside. So we're against the high time for momentum, technically speaking. 2, this isn't a completed 2, we're in the middle. Well, 2 is actually this. 3 is the fact that's not completed pattern, but 2 is we're in the middle of this pattern, right? So although it makes sense for me to be looking for price to come to the downside to complete the descending channel, the fact of the matter that we are in the middle of the pattern means that we could just as easily move down as we could move up. Like I was saying before, we could easily just move up to these areas or this area or this area, right? And so because we're in the middle of the pattern, that becomes way more of a possibility. If we were here, if we had the same type of structure, so if we just clone this, if we have this here, That's way different, right? Because we're at a double top. You know what I'm saying? We're at not the overall double top, but we're at a large double top. We have, this is an area where sellers clearly stepped in from before and again, in the past. So that makes it way more high probability to take the same type of pattern up there instead of in the middle of the pattern, right? But again, like I said, it fit this other, oh, sorry. Three, the fact that we don't complete this pattern, the pattern right here, the smaller pattern. But the fact that, and this is where the override for me comes in, the fact that we go up, and we do go up impulsively and form a second touch of this trend line. So 1, 2, 1, 2, right? The fact that we do go up impulsively, but then come lower and then come back up and double top, that was a great, that right there would have been an entry for me to look at, but I was asleep at the time. So, it is what it is. It's not that big of a deal. But as we came lower and made this type of correction, it is a bit steeper. Because of that, it definitely could go to the upside. But it was one of those things where I was thinking, am I really just trying to be a perfectionist in this area because I have 1, 2 double top as well. I'm in this larger expanding pattern. On top of that, I'm at the bottom of this pattern, looking to push lower and possibly break out. This doesn't have to be the one that goes, but there's a possibility that it is the one that goes, right? And so ultimately we move down, we're in about 1% profit right now. And so at that point, and I say profit very lightly because it's not profit until you close the trade down. So, it's whatever. But at this point, I am at break even. So no risk on this trade, which is great because I do think, and obviously what I think isn't important in the market. The market doesn't care what I think. But based on what I've seen through back testing and just kind of like a bit of intuition that you get from back testing a lot, right? Trading is one of those crazy things where you talk about making it very systematic and you always want to have rules and everything like that. But the minute that you start focusing on rules and back testing those rules and just being very serious about following those rules and like looking for certain patterns while you're back testing, you become way more about feel, or at least I think that, right? And it's like, I'm not saying that I give up on my rules, but basically what I'm saying is there's way more moments where I think to myself, something doesn't really like feel right. And there's like technical reasons behind it. I'm not saying like, oh, I'm going to do this just because of how I feel, but there are technical reasons from things that I used to see and that I see in backtesting, right? And so based on my backtesting data, just on the way that this is moving, it's looking like this is likely going to be a break even. But that's nice just because that's perfectly fine by me. I'll take that trade, honestly, 10 times out of 10. And honestly, the thing that I thought about before I took this trade was, would I take this trade if I had $1 million account? And I said yes. Like I felt very comfortable about that. And that's poignant just because there was another trade on Aussie USD. And I'm going to go through my missed trades in a different video. But there's another trade on Aussie USD, which is not really a missed trade, but it was a setup. But it was so low quality. And I asked myself the same question: would I take this trade on $1 million account? And I wouldn't, right? And I stayed out of it. Now, whether me staying out of it, the market rewarded me for that by, if I had gotten in, it would have immediately been a loss. I don't think that's what happened. I think it was just probabilities, playing out. But, I'm just saying that to say, if you're ever unsure about a trade or you think you're following your rules or anything like that, one, just take a second, take a step back, read your plan. You know what I'm saying? Just read through it and just see, okay, does it do this? Does it do that? Cool. All right, it does everything. It checks my plan. I still feel kind of wary about it. Ask yourself, would I take this trade if I had $1 million in my account? If the answer is yes, take it. If the answer is no, maybe still take it if it fits your plan. Maybe not. That's something that you have to, talk about with yourself, but at least starts that conversation and lets you know that this really like the type of trade or the quality of trade I want to be taking often, right? So ultimately, we're going to see what happens. We could get a break even, which is what I'm predicting. But again, who cares what I predict? The market doesn't care what I predict. But if we do get a break even, that will be, perfectly fine by me. Take the trade again 10 times out of 10. Looking for, at that point, I would be looking for this area here for possible opportunities, or again, up in this area, or possibly a double top of this expanding. And at that point, I'll reevaluate if we get to that point because, the market can do anything, but I don't know that we're going to get all the way up there. We'll probably get all the way up there by the end of the week, next week. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, but this has just been a quick trade recap, showing you possible opportunities that we would take, opportunities that I took this week on USD yen. Just one trade this week, kind of a slower week for me personally, as the market was kind of just shaping up for the beginning of the week and then really started to pick up at the end of the week. But I missed. I would say I missed because, and I only say I missed it because I thought about placing an order before going to sleep, and I have done it in the past, and it is something that I've, thought about and tested and have, considered with my back testing. So it's something that I can do, and it is valid for me to do in my plan. But I was very skittish and gun shy, and I don't know why. That's something I'm gonna have to, talk about with myself. But missed one on Aussie USD, but it's whatever. We move on. 1 week isn't going to define myself as a trader or anything like that. One trade is not going to define you as a trader. So just keep that in mind. I'm wishing you all the luck, best of luck in the rest of the week. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it provided some value. Please join us again next time. Thank you.